Hello, and welcome to our Global Fleet Champions webinar, Protecting Vulnerable Road Users, sponsored by Mix Telematics. Global Fleet Champions is a partnership campaign administered by BRAKE, the road safety charity, to prevent deaths, injuries, and pollution caused by vehicles driven for work. To learn more about the campaign and what we do, please visit globalfleetchampions.org. At today's webinar, you will learn how to raise awareness among employees about the dangers that vulnerable road users face and the measures that can be introduced to protect them. Additionally, our speakers will discuss the latest safety systems available and how engaging with local communities and lobbying local and national governments can bring about road safety change. On your screen now, you should be able to see a multiple choice question poll, so we can find out your views on this topic. It is anonymous, simply select one answer and press confirm, and we will discuss the results at the beginning of the Q&A session, which is your opportunity to ask some of today's presenters any questions you might have. You can also put forward your questions at any time during the webinar by using the chat box on the webinar panel. Thank you for your time, and the webinar will now begin.
Thank you for having us and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kate Kraft, the Executive Director of America Walks, and I'm here with my colleague, Crystal Baum, who's the Project Manager for our Road to Zero work. Today, we want to introduce you to America Walks and the work that we do in the United States. We'll also spend some time reviewing the pedestrian safety issues that we're seeing, and I suspect that will be most relevant for all of you. America Walks was founded in 1996 by a small group of pedestrian advocacy organizations that wanted a way to support each other, to share lessons they were learning, and to organize a national voice for walking and pedestrian concerns in the U.S. Since that time, that's what America Walks has continued to do. Our mission is to advance safe, accessible, equitable, enjoyable places to walk and move. We have a vision that all communities will be built and organized around people-first transportation policies that give equal attention to all forms of transport, walking, biking, micro-mobility, etc. So that you have a sense of our scale, because we've grown a bit since over the last 20-something years, we engage with a network of over 30,000 individuals and almost 700 local and state organizations that care about walking, walkable communities, and safety in the U.S. Our work focuses on creating the local and state capacity to advocate and implement safe, walkable places. We provide training and education through webinars and other online training platforms. We conduct a 6-month intensive fellowship, our walking college. We support community action with targeted grant making. We organize and connect local and state groups through state networks and a national walking summit that we hold every other year. And most relevant for our discussion today, we've worked with partners to develop a pedestrian safe systems online curriculum and are working with mid-sized cities to learn to analyze and develop safe systems to protect pedestrians. We promote planning for forgiveness. Everyone makes mistakes and we don't want them to be fatal. And you'll see why. Both nationally and internationally, pedestrian deaths are a growing epidemic. Globally, over half of all deaths are the most vulnerable users. Pedestrians make up 22% of these global deaths. This is a map from the World Health Organization showing road-wide fatalities by user types. You can see that pedestrians and cyclists are a significant portion of that. In the US, 16% of traffic fatalities are pedestrians, and that number is growing. In 2018, over 6,200 pedestrians were killed in the US. This was the largest number since 1990. Seniors, people of color, and low-income individuals were at the greatest risk for being killed. They're over twice as likely to be killed. The vast majority of these deaths occur in the evening and at nighttime. If you're a pedestrian, you're 5 times more likely to be killed in a traffic collision than if you were a passenger in a vehicle. There are a number of reasons cited for this increase, including an increase in the number of vehicles on the road, driver impairment, and the number of distractions like cell phones and social media used by all users. Vehicle speeds are higher, which is riskier for pedestrians. Automobiles are heavier, with more SUVs on the road. And most importantly, we have planned and designed infrastructure to prioritize automobiles over all other users. We lack connected, protected bike lanes and sidewalks. We do not have enough well-spaced and well-timed crosswalks. Roads are built for speed, not mobility for all users. This is despite the fact that globally, four-wheeled vehicles, cars, account for 29% of mobility. Motorcycles, 28%, and pedestrians, 23%. This has contributed to an imbalance in our transportation systems and resulted in unsafe conditions for the most vulnerable users. But there is good news. We have many proven countermeasures that can be implemented to design for safety and provide a forgiving environment for all users. These are part of a safe systems approach that you're going to hear about from my colleague, Crystal.
Thank you, Kate. The safe systems approach was developed in Europe in the early 1990s. Sweden was the first to adopt it in 1994. The system consists of 4 basic principles. First, people make mistakes. People are fallible, and most of our decisions are intuitive, meaning they are implicit and unconscious. We react to our environment and are influenced by more than just logic and reason. An example is reacting to an animal running into the road. Second, people are vulnerable. The human body has a limited physical ability to tolerate crash forces. The picture on the right is of Project Graham, created by the Transport Accident Commission in Victoria, Australia, to show the human body if we had evolved to withstand a low-level impact. So for instance, Graham's knees move in all directions, not just one direction, like yours or mine. This slide shows you the odds of surviving a crash depending on automobile speed. This is showing you for pedestrians, but a similar case could be made for passengers that are inside the cars. So 9 out of 10 people hit by a car traveling at 20 miles an hour would survive the impact. But when the speed increases to 40 miles per hour, only 2 out of 10 would survive. This slide shows you the same information, only in kilometers per hour. There is less than a 20% probability of fatality at 30 kilometers per hour, but that jumps to greater than 80% probability at 50 kilometers per hour. The third principle of a safe systems approach is road safety involves numerous systems. Safe systems understands that preventing deaths and injuries requires a multi-pronged approach to take action and be responsible. The fourth principle of the safe systems approach is responsibility is shared across disciplines. Road safety has traditionally been viewed as the responsibility of individual road users, but a safe systems approach recognizes that complex safety problems require multidisciplinary solutions. Take speed management, for example. Policies must be developed and implemented for setting appropriate speed limits. Road designs must facilitate safe and appropriate speeds. Messages are needed to raise awareness of expectations, and enforcement is needed to reinforce safe speeds. We have proven countermeasures. This is a list of proven countermeasures from the U.S. Federal Highway Administration that are not exclusive to the U.S. They include medians and pedestrian crossing islands in urban and suburban areas, pedestrian hybrid beacons, and dedicated left and right turn lanes at intersections, just to name a few. Other planning and design principles include protected sidewalks and bike lanes, road diets, and street connectivity. One popular approach to accommodating all users is complete streets. In the U.S., over 1,400 policies have been passed nationwide that include statewide policies and municipalities. There are other various policies that address safety. Vision Zero is being implemented in over 24 U.S. cities, setting a date when no more pedestrians will needlessly die in crashes. Other policies, like vulnerable user laws, are gaining traction, and transportation resources are going into developing a transportation culture of safety and people-first planning. We know what we need to do to make roads safer for all road users, so now is the time to get to work. At America Walks, we are training community practitioners, local elected officials, advocates, and professionals on how to work together to create a community culture of safety that can reduce crashes and save lives. Thank you again for joining us. Please feel free to contact us for additional information.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline O'Donovan, Managing Director of O'Donovan Waste Disposal. We're London's largest independent waste management company based in London, and I'm presenting a webinar on behavioural safety, health and safety as an urban fleet HGV operator. O'Donovan Waste, the company itself is celebrating 60 years within the industry. This year, we have 95 HGV vehicles, 165 staff, and we have 6 depots in London and the South East. 5 of those depots are in London, and we're leading independent waste management company, family owned. Our business ranges from skip hire to muck away, recycled aggregates, demolition, road sweepers, plant hire. We like to think of ourselves as the one-stop shop for the construction industry. Our priorities as a family company, we like to have staff well-being as a key element. We class our staff as our biggest assets, not our freehold properties or our vehicles. It's paramount that we have safety in operation due to the fact that we're predominantly operating in and around London, where there's a lot of vulnerable road users sharing the roads with us. Welfare checks for all staff. Obviously, customer satisfaction is paramount, because without customers we wouldn't be in operation. And we have led the charge with regards to the industry and raising the standards. I think the industry needs to come into the 21st century, and I'm a firm believer in sharing our knowledge and spreading the word so the whole culture of the industry is improved. And we do an awful lot of community engagement, because we feel that it's not only within the industry that standards have to be risen, but if we don't have the help of the community and the understanding, the work will take longer to achieve. Our industry challenges. Our challenges currently, with the exception of Brexit, which I'm not going to discuss, is culture. The culture within this industry, our driver shortage, non-UK staff, vehicle idling, fuel costs, insurance costs in London. So we feel that there's a real culture within this industry that people don't like change. And with the changing streetscape of London and the emphasis being on people walking and cycling, there's more vulnerable road users out and about during the day, which causes us challenges. So that is probably one of our biggest challenges, is actually the changing landscape of London itself. Driver shortage, average driver age is 54. It's not an industry that people want to get into. So that's something that we're trying to tackle from the bottom end and try to present to colleges and schools and different organisations to encourage people into the industry. Non-UK staff, 70% of the construction industry is made up of non-UK staff, so they're paramount for our operation. Being paramount, it also brings its challenges with English being a second language. Fuel costs and idling, vehicle idling, are obviously one of the biggest costs for a company like us with 95 HGV vehicles on the road. So these are key elements with the Cleaner Air initiative that the Mayor of London has brought out. Again, we're looking at making our operation a cleaner operation to coincide with the changes that are happening worldwide. Insurance costs are, again, one of our biggest costs as a company, one of the overheads, and we have enabled our insurance premiums to decrease from all the work that we have done with training and safety and the interaction of our drivers with vulnerable road users. Our training program is very comprehensive, no matter what role a person joins the company, whether it's a waste handler or an office staff or a HGV driver. They all get a personal development plan. Documents like safe systems of work and risk assessments are done in multilingual format, because although it's a minimum requirement to have basic English, when you start looking at risk assessments and safe systems of work, the terminology can be quite complex, so we do that in multilingual format. We're an approved training centre, and I am the trainer myself personally, and I find that the engagement with the staff on a Saturday morning, especially with the drivers, is priceless. The drivers do a compulsory course called Safe Urban Driving, where they spend half a day in the classroom and half a day on a bicycle. And before they go out on the bicycle, they're all moaning and whinging. They don't want to get on a bike. They haven't been on a bike for years. And when they come back, they're absolutely delighted, really enjoyed the experience. But more importantly, they've been educated to the challenges that a cyclist may face when cycling through the streets of London. Training is firmly embedded within the company, and with the personal development plans, they're reviewed quarterly for the first year, then every 6 months, and then it goes into a year. We also do a buddy system, so if somebody's new into the industry, they'll be buddied up with somebody so that they have somebody at their fingertips to ask any questions that they feel that they're not happy with their working conditions, or they're not sure where something might go or what they need to do. Compulsory training, this is paramount for us as a company. It's not a legal requirement, but it is compulsory if you work for our company and you're a HGV driver. We do, as the slides show, insist that the drivers all go out on a bicycle. And although the driver's certificate of professional competence states that they have to do it at least once every 5 years, our drivers do it once every year. It has seen an increase in drivers cycling and walking to work and improving their overall fitness, but in turn educating them to the challenges that a cyclist may be facing when they're cycling through London, which gives them as a driver the opportunity to give that cyclist or vulnerable road user the space they need to conduct themselves in whatever manoeuvre that they're in. We also do a waste management training, which includes health and safety, waste and recycling. The waste handlers undergo that, as well as the HGV drivers and the managers. Staying legal courses, these are compulsory because we think it's important that staff understand why we do what we do, because we have a legal obligation. We also do the added touchscreen CSCS training, which is a basic health and safety training. So every member of staff, no matter what their position, will have basic health and safety training. Hazard perception training, that's an online. We do an e-learning course here. and hazard perception training is again targeted at vulnerable road users, and the driver has to listen to the recording and spot and click on the hazards as he sees them or she sees them appear on the screen. Non-UK staff, predominantly we have 12 nationalities here, so predominantly English is a second language. As I said previously, we issue all health and safety documents in multilingual format and actually talk staff through them, but we also issue handbooks. So each section, HGVs have a handbook, office staff, and then other staff. And again, these books are done in multilingual format because they come across terminology that wouldn't be day-to-day terminology within our industry. We issue the highway code annually or as and when a change is made to the highway code, as we think it's paramount that all drivers are aware of what the signs in the UK stand for, and more so when there's new cycle superhighways. The signage is new not only to the UK drivers but to the non-UK drivers. So again, if anything changes, we issue highway codes free of charge. Drivers are also assessed prior to them starting. So if a driver, a HGV driver, comes to us for a job, and we are an employer of choice due to the training that's embedded and the ethos of the company and the way in which we treat the staff as our biggest assets. And when they come, they're assessed by a driver standards manager. But not only are they assessed, they're also drug and alcohol tested, and that continues throughout their employment randomly. And eyesight tests are conducted every quarter, where best practice is advised at once every year. We do quarterly eye tests. We have multilingual mentors, and we also have interpreters. We have at least one interpreter for every 5 members of staff in the event that they have an issue with any risk assessments, training, documentation, or the such like. Safety culture. This is paramount for us, being an operator situated in London, and London having so many changes over the last 5 years with regards to moving and changing the streetscape to allow vulnerable road users, people to cycle, people to walk. It's paramount for us that the safety culture is very much part of the DNA of the company. We provide on-the-job support. We've got a driver standards manager. The drivers are scheduled to go from job to job, but they're not safety supersedes the number of jobs they're to do a day. They're not incentivized whatsoever to conduct themselves to do more jobs. It makes no difference whether they do 4 jobs or 40 jobs. Safety is the priority. We follow customers' construction logistic plans, which tells us the final mile entry into a site. If the client hasn't got a construction logistic plan in place, we will put a construction logistic plan in place. This plan will give the driver the safest route to the job, and it covers the final mile. So it will avoid hotspots like schools, hospitals, busy cycling routes, cycle superhighways, busy junctions, roundabouts, that type of thing. So all drivers are issued with them with each and every job that they go to. Keep in mind that the jobs are repeated, so we could attend the same site 10 times in one day, but maybe with 5 different drivers. We've got safety champions, so throughout the whole organisation, the staff members don't have to wait for the hierarchy. They can go to safety champions, and if the safety champions have a question, they can then go to the next layer up, which is the managers that are trained in safety, and the hierarchy is the NEBOSH qualified health and safety officers, and we have 2 of them, one being myself and one being the compliance director. So we feel it's paramount that the safety element is shared evenly throughout the whole operation, whether it be in the office, the yard, or drivers out on the road. We've got 5-way CCTV cameras, and the drivers actually requested these because they wanted to be able to prove that should anything ever happen, that they were actually doing their job right and correct, and that they were conducting themselves in the correct manner. So we have 5-way cameras in each vehicle. The safety equipment, we are Gold FORS members, and FORS is the TfL's program that was brought in to raise standards with regards to operators. So it is the Fleet Operators Recognition Scheme. We're the first independent company to achieve the gold, and there's only probably 270 to 280 companies with gold out of some 5,000 plus companies that are registered in the scheme. We're 7 years with our gold and continue to maintain it. So part of that standard, it stipulates that we must have blind spot minimisation with the HGV vehicles. So instead of just having the basic blind spot minimisation, we have gone again above and beyond best practice, and we have the 5-way CCTV cameras, we have a left turning audible warning, and we have the side sensors, so they respond to anything in the driver's blind side, and they let off a bleep in the cab, so the driver then can check his CCTV and also his mirrors. Direct vision standard is being rolled out in London, and we find that anything rolled out in London, other cities and towns and countries follow. So I was party to the Clocks working group visiting all the manufacturers and requesting different styles of vehicles so that the driver had a better direct vision, so the driver could engage with vulnerable road users on an eye contact basis. So the slide shows here on the top right, it shows your typical dust cart cab, but on the back we've got a skip loader body on it. We were the first in Europe to put a skip loader body on the back of the dust cart style cabs. And although the cab is multi-crew cab and there is only one driver, he doesn't have any crew members, you can see that it's got a bus style door. So the driver is not only seated lower to enable him to gain eye contact with cyclists, motorcyclists, pedestrians, etc. He can actually see out the near side floor to ceiling. And the vehicle is actually situated lower on the road to your standard vehicle. Also, a lower window has been put in the near side footwell. So again, if anybody's sitting, maybe waiting at a set of traffic lights on the near side of the vehicle, the driver can either see them or gain eye contact through that window with them. Sharing knowledge is paramount. We feel that not only do we have to share knowledge with our industry, but we also have to share knowledge with the wider public and the general public, but not only the public, the next generations. So these pictures depict various different events. So for the Brake Road Safety Week, we visited various schools, and we have a red map that is shown on this slide, and that depicts a typical blind spot area for a HGV driver. And we place the children on the map. We ask them to look up. They can't see the driver can't see them. We give them the opportunity to sit into the cab so they can see down, and they can see that they can't see their school friends. We also did a park to park where the kids were encouraged to cycle from one park to another park in the borough of Haringey in North London. And again, we had vehicles set up at each location. So again, they could understand that when cycling through London, they have to be aware that maybe they won't be seen, although they feel they've got open space and that everybody can see them, that, you know, blind spots do exist. We also offer the vehicle to the Metropolitan Police and the City of London for an event called Exchanging Places, where cyclists are asked to actually sit in the vehicle and again to share the experience of the HGV driver. And 99% of the comments are, wow, didn't realise how high up you were, wow, didn't realise how restricted your view was. So again, it's educating people that wouldn't normally get the chance to be in a HGV vehicle. The results for us as a company, that it is phenomenal. Recorded instances have been reduced by 22%. That could be harsh acceleration, harsh braking, cornering. On-site injuries have been reduced by 27% due to the training that the staff have had. The insurance premiums have been reduced by 25%. Our carbon footprint has been reduced by 21.5%. but yet the fuel consumption has also been reduced by 27.5%, but our miles per year have actually increased. And as you can see, our idling has been reduced by 50% via a very simple system of a red, amber, green, giving a colour to the driver each week. No driver wanted to take home a red one, so within the space of 4 to 6 weeks, our idling was cut by 50%. So on the bottom line, the education, the sharing, the training has created not only a benefit for the staff, the workplace, but it's also benefited the company financially. So our success is we've got safer vehicles, we've got a safer operation, we've got a massively enhanced reputation, we've got a team spirit and a massive pride for working with the company, increased sales, reduced operational cost, and a real inclusive environment. Everybody feels part of the team. There's no them against us. Here are some of the awards and accreditations that we have been recognised for our work. Most recently, the first ever Urban Delivery Operator of the Year award we won the last week in June. We've won the European Transport Safety Council, which was for road safety, and we had to go to Brussels to collect that. So all our awards are predominantly for safety and training. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Bates and I work for a company called Mixed Telematics, and I'm here to talk to you today about technologies that can help protect vulnerable road users as part of our partnership together with Brake. So the 4 areas we'll cover today are in-cab connected video, or video telematics as it's also known, driver performance apps, the vital analytics that are used by fleet managers to help improve safety and improve the situation for vulnerable road users. And we'll also look at in-cab coaching aids, which help drivers in a live environment to drive in a more safe manner. So starting with in-cab connected video, I just want to give you an overview of the types of technology that now exist, both in the UK market and worldwide. And really what video telematics is all about is improving organisational safety by understanding exactly how drivers are driving and being able to record those safety behavioural events in real time and display them within a connected SaaS platform. So there are lots of different elements here, and I just want to be able to give you a bit of a guide. You have the actual video recording unit itself, along with then different types of options of cameras. And most commonly what we can see are dual facing cameras that then point directly at the road and also face the driver, so you can see the context of an event. You could also have a single facing, road facing camera only. You can also have external cameras, and a lot of the different solutions on the market also offer microphones so you can understand the audio, and again that just adds to the contextual layer within the cab. So that's the actual technology of the camera, but the key really is how you put that to use. And the best tools really are those ones that exist within a SaaS environment, such as an integrated video player in an online portal, so that a fleet manager can see those clips of the events, along with being able to overlay that information within a timeline or map environment in that online software portal, and of course within behavioural reports as well, so that driver trainers can use that information to again improve organisational safety. Also a mobile app for fleet managers on the move, where they can see those video clips from their drivers. In terms of the benefits and how this is used, so the really important thing here is that investing in this kind of technology should be focused primarily on safety. And the best way to do that is to look for event-triggered video clips. And by that I mean that as an organisation who's focused on protecting vulnerable road users and drivers, you'd really want to make sure that you're looking at the key critical safety events, such as harsh braking, harsh acceleration, crashes, any types of impacts, perhaps seatbelt wearing in passenger side and in the rear seats as well, just so that you get that full context of the behavioural events. And the way that this technology works is you actually set up those events within a SaaS platform, and the video is told to record and transmit video clips pertaining to those types of events. And with that then, driver trainers can then use that information together with the drivers to help improve behavioural safety. So that provides a really powerful layer of visual evidence, thereby protecting both vulnerable road users and also drivers at the same time. Organisations also get the consequential benefits of being able to disprove fraudulent claims and therefore reducing overall insurance liabilities. But really the key here is it's all about an impactful driver coaching tool. I mentioned before that they can view the footage alongside the data within the SaaS platform available together with comprehensive reporting and analytics. That's really key for fleet managers and driver trainers. Some of the proven benefits that we can see on the marketplace are a huge improvement in safe driving of up to 54% and a 60% reduction in crash and claim liability. Now, all of these factors clearly have a massive beneficial impact on protecting vulnerable road users. Next, we'll talk about driver performance apps. So again, we're focusing here on providing safety critical tools directly to the driver. So the idea of this is by using a telematics box connected to an in-cab coach, which we'll come on to in a moment, drivers will be able to see their own behavioural safety information after each journey on their own mobile app, completely securely and anonymised with the rest of the fleet, so they're only seeing their own information. So the driver uses this information to understand how her or his driving style compares, as I said, anonymously to others, and identify the areas that he or she needs to focus on in order to improve safety performance. So most commonly, these kind of apps are used together with some kind of appropriate driver incentive, and that's seen as a winning move for fleet operators to optimize safety. And of course, by doing that, they're helping vulnerable road users, and they're also reducing their efficiency related costs within their businesses as well. Again, in terms of the benefits, we're talking about safety on the road for all road users here. So although we're focusing primarily on technology that is attributable to the driver, the whole point is here, the technology is to help the driver drive more safely, which then has that huge direct consequential beneficial impact on vulnerable road users, resulting in fewer crashes and saving lives. Of course, there are some efficiency gains to be had here as a consequence too, such as reduced fuel usage that saves organisations money, and that's often the way to prove the business case alongside a key safety driver within an organisation. The idea here is that we're helping drivers to self-improve, so this isn't kind of just a simple top-down approach where organisations are telling drivers that they need to improve in all areas. It's actually giving drivers the tools to self-manage by having that as an app available to drivers themselves. You can see here from some of the results from things such as a 66% reduction in overspeed events, up to a 38% reduction in harsh brake events, 44% reduction in harsh acceleration, and an 84% improvement in what we call the RAG score, which is effectively a driver safety score. This app has huge benefits to drivers and also makes sure that they're a really key part of the continuous improvement process. So those are a couple of tools for the drivers. Now I just wanted to change tack and talk about some of the technology that's available to fleet managers. And we're going to delve here into a topic called preventative maintenance, which again is around being able to improve the safety of the vehicles on the road by providing key analytics to fleet managers and to maintenance operators. So these kind of analytics allow fleet managers to see clearly what are the unsafe behaviours of the vehicle rather than the driver that, if uncorrected, could lead to crashes, or they could lead to time off road that's unpredictable for the vehicle, which can put vulnerable road users at risk. So what we're doing here, we're going to take an example where actually there are a number of different events set up in relation to preventative maintenance, such as events that look at high engine temperature, low oil pressure, and low oil level. And by monitoring these types of events and being able to warn fleet operators before potentially catastrophic events happen, we're able to improve the safety of the fleet. So in this client example, maintenance event intel was aggregated over 6 months across a fleet of 220 vehicles. And the idea here was that we were predicting and preventing likely catastrophic faults. Actually, 3 engines were saved, which did have a big financial benefit within that 6 months. But most importantly of all, this kind of accumulation of intelligence builds preemptive issue management programs and makes vehicles safer to drive. And of course, if we've got safe vehicles on the road and safe drivers, then we're far more likely to be protecting those vulnerable road users. So the last technology I'm going to look at today is potentially one of the most significant, and that's the in-cab coaching aid. Again, there are lots of different types of technology such as this in the marketplace, but we're going to take this one, which is a bit of an all-encompassing example. What you can see on screen now is a very small driver display that sits within the cab that is actually looking at 5 key driver safety behavioural events as standard. Those are over-revving, excessive idle, harsh braking, harsh acceleration and over-speeding. But actually what we can do with this type of technology is configure it to look at any kinds of events. So both safety and again, things like preventative maintenance. And in this example, what we've also done is we've actually made available on this particular vehicle with some third-party technology, what we call ADAS events. So those are things like warning the driver of cyclists and pedestrians, for instance, in proximity alerts. We've actually made those events available to be seen by the driver within the cab. So of course, if we've got a vulnerable road user like a pedestrian crossing the road or a cyclist, and you've got this third-party tech integrated into your telematics solution, what you can do is actually show the driver these events in a preventative manner and really protect those road users before something terrible happens. So this type of technology is really marrying together the traditional driver safety events with also any kind of customized events, as we've got there, the high engine temperature and the pedestrian in danger zone events. So the benefits of this kind of technology, there's really a myriad. So it really helps drivers in real time self-manage their driving behaviors. So because we're flagging up and showing the driver as these events happen, it's acting as a live coach and not just a retrospective tool. We've talked about the fact that there are consequential saving money benefits to organisations such as fuel efficiency and maintenance costs. But the real key here is that it's really reducing the risk of crashes. So with fewer occurrences of speeding and harsh braking and being able to give drivers that kind of preventative warning information that we just looked at, this is actively saving lives as well as having that saving money benefit for organisations. So I hope that gives you a good flavour of the different types of technology that are available on the marketplace. Really what we need to think about are the different levels that technology applies. So the important thing to getting that change management program up and running in the organisation is to have both the technology and the expertise. And the technology needs to be broken down into driver related tech. It needs to be also fleet manager related tech and analytics as well. And when you put all that together from a technology perspective, you're giving all of the different audience members within an organisation the key tools to empower them to make the positive change. Like I said, this type of technology, it's really important that you get the right guidance and advice about how to apply it, because that's really the key. So the technology is all well and good, but that guidance and advice is really the main factor when it comes to putting together something that's going to lead you to sustainable positive change. So thanks very much for listening to my presentation today, and I'll be very happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you, Jonathan. We've now come to the end of the formal presentations and it is time for our Q&A session. But before we go to our speakers to ask some questions, I would just like to share with you the results of our poll. First of all, I'm going to get Jonathan just to comment on the poll question: are your vehicles equipped with technology that can help drivers to detect vulnerable road users?
Thanks, Sarah. Awesome. So yeah, I think looking at the poll result, we can see there's pretty much a fairly even split of different answers. But I think the really interesting thing is to think about the percentage of people. So there's over 50% that don't currently have technology that helps drivers detect vulnerable road users. So I think clearly the interesting thing is understanding the different reasons for those, and certainly that 33% that are interested in introducing it, and even those that aren't interested. We do, together between Mix and Break, we've got a lot of educational material, I think including this webinar together with all the other partners, that can hopefully help just provide that bridge if it's a case of not quite understanding how to introduce it. There's plenty of material there, educational wise, and also we've got people that can help with any particular questions or challenges that any of you may be facing. So I think that's just out there to contact Break and or Mix as well to follow up if you wish to.
Yep, definitely. So for those of you logged in, you will be a member of Global Fleet Champions. So when you log into our website, there is a resources section of the website, which has a range of resources from guidance reports to advice sheets for drivers, etc. So do take a look there. So I'd just like to ask Jonathan a few more questions, if that's okay. We've had some come in from our attendees. Obviously, in the poll, it does suggest that of the organisations attending do not have the technology equipped, but some might be interested in doing so. What challenges do you think fleets could encounter when introducing a range of new safety technologies into their organisation? As obviously some of those challenges might be contributing to why they might not be interested as of yet in equipping their fleets with this technology.
Sure. I think the key reasons, the regular reasons, are firstly to do with budgets and priorities, very simply for different fleets. So I think it's a case of understanding, is this something that's part of your roadmap for something you want to do? And it's a case of needing to understand which technology. Or is it a case of needing to justify to other people within your company the value of that technology and what it's going to do for your business, on top of the safety benefits? That's probably the key challenge, is getting it to top of mind next to all the other things that most of you will have going on in your businesses. And then another big challenge is usually, depending on what type of technology that is, how that's going to affect, let's say, the driver's day-to-day job, or whether there are any kind of GDPR concerns with regards to different types of technology. But it really depends on the type of technology that you're looking at. And sometimes it can be understanding, there's probably a million different things that you could do. It's really understanding and making a short list of the right one for your specific business challenge. I think that's the most important thing, is understanding what technology is going to make the biggest positive impact for you. Those are the usual ones that we come across.
So speaking of technology, would you prioritise things like event-triggered video over other ADAS that can reduce crash risk? So for example, ISA, so intelligent speed adaptation, or autonomous emergency braking? Personally,
I would. I really like the ADAS stuff, and I think it's really important. I mean, ideally you have different solutions that tackle different challenges. I think ADAS is managing something very much in real time. So a situation is developing, and it certainly takes a sort of a preventative measure in real time, but it doesn't necessarily address kind of the core issues as to why things are happening in the first place, potentially on a regular basis. So, in some cases, it may be that there's a really unfortunate circumstance that's occurring that really a driver can do absolutely nothing about, irrespective of whatever driving behaviours they usually exhibit. The types of technology that I think are generally more effective over the longer term in terms of avoiding those situations from happening in the first place are things that allow you to analyse behaviour and performance and work together with drivers to avoid those potentially dangerous situations from happening in the first place. That's the ones that could be preventable, let's say, by different driving behaviour. But I do accept there'll always be those circumstances where things are completely out of the driver control, and that's where I think ADAS comes in.
Another final question that we've got from an attendee: is the driver performance app a standalone technology or connected with the in-cab connected video? And does it rely on the data collected by this camera device?
Yeah, it relies on the data collected by the telematics device. So it's not a standalone app. It's working together with a device that is looking at, let's say, granular and real speed and driver behavior data that's coming from measuring the driver's interaction with the vehicle. So it's embedded in the vehicle itself. So it's reporting true information rather than approximated stuff based on an accelerometer. So it's all the real life information. So it works together with that.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'd now like to ask Crystal and Kate some questions. Good afternoon, Kate. Well, thank you very much for joining us today and for presenting. It's wonderful to hear about all the brilliant things which America Walks are doing. We've got some questions for you. So many of these policies are government-led initiatives. What are some simple steps which you suggest which organisations with working drivers could take to reduce the risk they pose to pedestrians and cyclists? What would you advise?
We focus primarily on making sure the environment is designed for all users so that you're creating a safe street to begin with. That means that you've got protected bike lanes and sidewalks, making sure that crosswalks are available and well marked, making sure that speeds are appropriate to the use of the street. So I think the one thing that we hear from communities that is the best safety strategy, if you will, is really to slow the speeds, at least in areas where you've got multiple users using it. I mean, it's one thing if it's a highway out and there's no pedestrian around, but in downtowns where you've got multiple users, then to have slow enough speed so that you don't end up with the kinds of deaths that we've been talking about. In terms of organizations, many communities have local bike walk organizations that are doing both conducting walking tours or bike rides and working with local elected officials to improve safety and increase the awareness that multiple users have the right-of-ways here. So you see a lot of things, communities do things like open streets or play streets where they close the streets to cars for an event, or they do pop-up projects where perhaps they create a traffic calming circle or whatever within that to show that you can do this and people can still get around. So there are a lot of smaller activities like that. Let me just, Crystal, or anything you would want to add to that?
The second presentation, and forgive me for not remembering the name of the woman, but training program was really enlightening for me to see, as far as, you know, the drivers riding bicycles, to kind of get a feel for what that is. And so I think that's really important to have people put themselves in other people's shoes and kind of see the world through their eyes. And so I was really impressed with that. And then, you know, partnership building, as Kate mentioned, I think is really important, advocacy organizations, and then really putting pressure on local elected officials, because a lot of these policies are at that level.
Definitely, thank you very much. In terms of fleet managers, how can they get safe system approaches adopted in their local areas? So I know we've spoken a lot there about communities, but are there any ways in which you'd suggest the fleets themselves get involved in those community initiatives?
I think fleets are a very influential and powerful group of constituents, at least that in the US, and I'm sure that's globally. I think working with your, I guess, government relations or your local owner who is probably pretty connected with the local elected officials and becoming part of the community coalition that's focused on things like Vision Zero and really making sure that your community has zero deaths as a priority. And then from there, what do we have to do to make sure that happens? So I think I would just think you have a voice and it's a pretty influential one, and use it for the idea that we have this epidemic and we need to do something about it.
Thank you very much. So thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar, which is of course kindly sponsored by Mixed Telematics. And we hope you enjoyed the webinar and that it's equipped you with lots of useful information that will help you work towards our common goal, which of course is safe and healthy mobility in fleets. To view our upcoming webinars, please visit globalfleetchampions.org. Thank you very much to today's presenters, and we hope you can join us again very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.